because it's about public health. Women cannot be victims of violence just because they are women. It's impossible. And we are welcoming these women into our emergency wards. We need to end with the breast cancer, which I believe, which is killing so many people. It's important to screen it better, heal it better, and all of this is part of our daily business, our daily lives. And on a daily basis, there are 1,277 women working at the Hospices de Beaune, 82% of our headcount. It shows to what extent this matter is important for us all the time, not only today, but all the time. This is what I want to share with you. And this afternoon, there's a beautiful wine auction which should contribute to the end of this beautiful reconstruction of our hospital. In hospitals, investments are scary. 70 million euros, it's a huge amount. However, rebuilding a hospital, it's 400 million euros, a university hospital, that is. So thank you for being here, and thank you. We feel good being here and being together. You can hear that I was singing, I was singing very loudly, and sorry if, to my neighbor who was sitting next to me. And we had a short night. It's so great to be back in life because this is a moment where we can rejoice for all of us. And the gala tonight is about rejoicing. I thank you very much. Who should I turn it over? It was supposed to be Mr. Sugno. He will be arriving. Don't worry. I'll turn it over to Marie-Anne Ginaud, the Executive Director, Sotheby's France. She'll be with us for at least 5 years, and thank you for having transformed what we usually do. Thank you. Hello, everyone. So, no mask for a time. So, hello, everyone. The Sotheby team is very honored to be here in the presence of you and the team to head for the first time for Sotheby's, the most famous and ancient charity auction sale for 1 year. And we started this beautiful adventure, and we met a remarkable team, great quality. It's really very enjoyable to work with them, akin to the vine. And we're rooted in very old history, even though we were born 300 years ago. We both are trying to meet the current challenges, and we are very attached to these traditions and want to show our ability to innovate, because in the case of innovation, it's a very sensitive exercise. We want to provide international exposure and top technology to help the whole world to attend these sales. And our teams and Sotheby's teams are very happy to work with the Hospices de Beaune and organize their sales and make sure we can help beam even more the quality of the Hospice wine, but also promote the values that underlie them, as well as the history they come from. And Mr. Poer spoke about it initially. We are proud and aware that we contribute to the medical social mission of the Hospices de Beaune for their communities. And it's an additional honor, and we are very moved to contribute to support the causes of this year, which are really dear to our hearts, that is supporting the Association Solité des Femmes just days before we have the official event regarding the causes of women. And we support also the Institut Curie in their fight against cancer. And we're really happy about the support we're getting, so we are very proud, and we collectively quite moved. Our role at Sotheby's with the Hospices de Beaune is to share our expertise regarding wines very well known in the world, our expertise, the relationships we have weaved with the greatest wine lovers and collectors in the world. So there are, at Sotheby's, there are some around the world, from London to New York, and of course in Paris. Our people are really getting committed with the many supports that you will be meeting during the weekend. And there are about 20 tastings that were organized upstream between Asia, Europe, and the States to have to make sure everything resonates as widely as possible. And today we have clients from all over the world who will be involved in the auction sale, and there are many people who are also with us here today. This major event is part in a project to expand French, wines in Europe and so on. And this is why we've beefed up our teams with our sales manager for Europe. They are actively in the background, and for over 50 years, Sotheby's is proposing its customers wines from around the world. We expect that this auction and France become one of the largest markets in the world. I wish you all an excellent wine auction sale. Unless you have a few questions, I'll turn it over to the next person. Dominique Guillaume Izenman. Hello, everyone. I will do it in two periods. I would like to thank first with emotions. I'm so moved for being here, of discovering more closely this great world of the Hospices de Beaune. Yes, I'm removing my mask here. Having said that, this emotion also is due to the fact, and I was speaking about this morning, I felt that actually what I've found here and was confirmed is solidarity beyond everything and anything. At one point, I was asked a question which I found very strange initially: what's the relationship between wine and violence against women? And by thinking about it, I felt, hey, well, there is a relationship, and that relationship is far from what we hear in your newspapers around alcohol that is ravaging everything. It is in this taste, this appetite for life. And these women that we support have been supporting for over 40 years. What is typical for all of them, or nearly all of them, is that appetite for life. For some of them, unfortunately, it will end through some death for a large part of them, and we are proud of this. Our federation, in its 75 associations in France, is supporting them, helping them, making sure that on a daily basis, that with the slightest details of their lives, but in every important thing in their life, being parenthood, justice, health. We were talking about health yesterday with my colleague. If we only got interested in making sure that violence against women produce on the health of women, especially on all these the millions that are invested in helping them to find again their physical and psychological health that they lose when there's violence, because it's not only about being hit, but the psychological violence that exists, moral violence, and the destruction, the fundamental destruction of women. It's so difficult for them to rebuild. So our federation, our federation was at the origin of a number of laws and acts, in particular also the famous so-called 3919, which is toll-free, which is around the clock, day after day. 1319, which is a toll-free number, which is part of us, belongs to us since many, many years. 1319 is where we listen and support over the phone. It's not just a traditional platform. It's far more than that, because these are very skilled experts that listen. They know what violence is about, how to manage this. They're constantly connected with our 75 associations today in France, including the overseas territories. In other words, these associations, and out of which our association, Solidarité 21, it's headed by one of our best friends. Well, this association, Solidarité Femmes 21, that you know, which is not located far from here in Dijon and works all over the place, does things in its own way because each association is free at any rate on the same foundations, which is supporting these women who are victims of violence and their children. Because there, again, a key point is that children are not witnesses, even though they are, of course. They are not only witnesses, they are not only spectators, they are victims as well, even though they are not directly struck. Forgive me for this expression, which is a drag. They are hit in their soul, their hearts, in their future. In other words, these women, these children, and and some of them, by the way, have experienced amidst family violence. They can be destroyed fundamentally. Well, of course, they get back on their feet for many of them, thanks to support provided, but others, it will actually be, they will have such bumpy and difficult lives where, unfortunately, things do not go without a hitch. So such a federation was created following the bringing together of a number of associations from the ground, following feminism. It's a word which sometimes is scary. Feminism is very straightforward. It's just claiming the fact that half of humankind, which is feminine, have the same rights as the other half. It's so straightforward, plain, and sometimes it's important to remind because daily in the households, but also in other stages, including in political arenas, we tend to forget this. And what you hear now around a number of scandals is just, unfortunately, the inheritance of centuries of masculine dominance and women being in submission. So we have gotten together in order to make sure we speak about this. We carry the words of women who think and believe with men also. Being equal is not so complicated after all, but each has to get committed on that path, really. And as a matter of fact, we got together to speak more further, more loudly, and highlight all of this. Gradually, things have evolved. And today, as I said, because I have to stop now, you know, when I start talking about this matter, look, it's been more than 45 years that I've been carrying this matter, but on a daily basis, also in the movement of women, in my personal development, so in parallel with my professional job. So this movement is about liberating women, but also men, in order to break out, gentlemen, of your straitjacket where you dominate women, which in our view as women, of course, when you are privileged, is not easy to let go, but it's great to share all of this on an equal basis with women. I thank you very much for your attention. Sorry for having been lengthy a bit, but this is something that I believe in very strongly. Jean Balibar, I thank very much the National Solidarité Federation for having given me the honor to asking me to support them during this auction sale and everything that is taking place here in Beaune to help year after year associations, federations, societies in doing good and being caring. After all, this hospital has always been dedicated to goodness. This is a day, just a few days before the International Women's Day event. It's a day, 24 hours. Every 3 days, every 24 hours, a woman is dying, being hit by their spouse or for ex-spouse. There are 220,000 women who are victims every year of violence as within the couple. I'm very proud as well and very honored and very happy to share this day with Bio Marmaille, who is an actor, comedian whom I admire very much. We are both comedians. I'm happy that we are two comedians, because what does it mean being a comedian or an actor? Well, it means imagining or using either through imagination or through similar experiences, try to understand what is the situation. And this is what I want to represent. What does it mean to be a woman in a home who is afraid of her man? What does it mean? Well, it means waiting. It means being afraid, shrinking, physically, meaning shrinking away. It means, and it also means maybe taking the blow. Psychologically, it means hunching your bag, it means waiting, and it means this horrible thing. It means that after a while, waiting that it be away, that it'll be finished. We wait until we're not hit any longer or hurt any insults, the words that tear you up, that destroy you, the blows, and after a while, perhaps the blows that kill you. And it's still there, it's ongoing. And one day there are children in that home, and we feel like before I felt that I could still leave this home. I felt that I can go downstairs, I can run. I maybe could hail a taxi if I have the means. I can take public transportation, and if there's none of this, if there's no money for, I can still run. However, one day there's a baby in that home, and it's 2 in the morning, and it's impossible to take a baby outside by risking that during the blows, maybe it's the baby that will be hit, and that's a big difference, believe me. So in order to welcome such women, you need people who are trained in organizations. You need possibilities, the possibility that it doesn't go all the way to the certain destruction of a sensitivity or a possible destruction of a body. This involves a cost. It requires expertise and people, social assistant, legal assistance, someone who listens on the phone, someone who can simultaneously translate the word of a woman who does not speak French yet, because we're made up of all the women that we welcome on our soil, coming from all over the world, with whom we have been in relationship in a more or less friendly way in the past few centuries. It costs 50,000 euros per year in order to welcome in our centers 220,000 women per year. Imagine how many do not speak. More than 220,000. Thank you for contributing this afternoon to finance all of this. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's difficult to speak after what we've heard. That was so moving. I'll try to do it on behalf of the Institut Curie. Nothing should be feared. Everything must be understood. I wasn't the one who coined it. It was Marie Curie who said it. Marie Curie, who was a pioneer scientifically with 2 Nobel Prizes. It's the only woman, they say, who received 2 Nobel Prizes. Well, it's the only person, I would say, who was awarded 2 Nobel Prizes in 2 different scientific disciplines. The only person. Marie Curie was a pioneer, not only scientifically, but also to defend the cause we are talking about today. Imagine a century ago, Marie Curie coming from Poland as a woman to do science, which at the time was not a world that was, well, it was very masculine. It was exclusively made up of males. And Marie Curie, with her husband, Pierre Curie, well, Marie Curie succeeded in overcoming all the barriers. It was so difficult at the time, and she did it in an exceptional way. The first woman professor at the Sorbonne University, the first person who received 2 Nobel Prizes, despite her Polish origins, and of course also, and she was a woman. That made it even more difficult. Nothing should be feared. She used to say everything needs to be understood. That's a philosophy of Marie Curie that enabled us to develop our institute for the past century. And today we're celebrating the 100th anniversary of the institute, founded by 1921. So it's a philosophy about the research that tries to understand better a disease that is scary, cancer, in order to treat it better. This is the philosophy that underlies our activity at the Institute. The Institute is a hospital today dedicated to cancer in general, but above all, to taking care of breast cancer, which is the first center for that in Europe. And this is a research center made up of 1,300 researchers, which tries to better understand, directly connected with the hospital, better understanding, in order to better treat. That's a philosophy transmitted by Marie Curie. That's the one we still defend. It's important to know that breast cancer is the most frequent cause of cancer among women. It's among the first 2 mortality causes among women, exceeded by the lung cancer because of tobacco smoking, but also today it's a cause of 12,000 deaths per year. We've made progress in terms of caring patients, especially those that are hurting from cancer, breast cancer. However, breast cancer is still responsible for 12,000 deaths each year in France. 12,000 too many each year. So it's a call for us researchers. We need to better and continue to make progress. And therefore, for us, it's a leading project in our research center, which is to better understand the aggressive forms of breast cancer, which are the cause of these 12,000 too many deaths. There again, we are making great progress. I will not give you a class here, but we understand why some breast cancers are more aggressive. These are very complex. Thanks to this new understanding and new tools, we are able to distinguish. We have cellular models to better understand, to analyze particularly and understand how the cancer cells are evolving and what is at the origin of a diversity in the same tumor. And we know we can understand why some cells are more aggressive than others. The aim now, after that understanding, is to be able to target the most aggressive cells in order to find their Achilles heel and find where they're vulnerable and therefore have new therapies in place. This is why we are supported today by this event. I'd like to end by my thanks. I'd like to thank the mayor of Beaune and thank the management of the Hospices de Beaune, and also thank our mentor, Mr. Marmaille, who is behind me, who, as you know, is a highly talented comedian, and he has convictions and character, talent, and asserted character and conviction. These are the 3 main characteristics of Marie Curie. Therefore, very happy to have our comedian, Mr. Marmaille, with us. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm quite flattered to be compared to Marie Curie. Well, it's important to have character, to be in front of you and ask you later on to be with us, to trust us. I will quite short. I'd like to thank again the town of Beaune. I'm very. I worked in this region, in the Burgundy region, several years ago, so it's dear to my heart. I'm attached also to wine, to the Hospice Civil in a way. To me, when you offered me to be involved, it was very important. I have a personal history which is related to breast cancer. At no point did I wonder whether I would participate in this event. On the contrary, it was spontaneous because in my flesh I had some experience, maybe the loss of someone in my life from breast cancer took place. You talked about the violence of some very aggressive cancers. This is something which I experienced indirectly. This is something that they will always have in mind and has made an imprint very strongly on me. This cause, in a way, is absolutely indispensable. Look, I'm quite moved. At any rate, let's meet at 2 p.m. today. Use your water because you'll have to really give a lot of money. Ciao, ciao, and thank you. Mr. Suguenot. I think Pio has given out the right pace. We have some serious causes. With Mr. François Pereire, we wanted to honor women. These causes are vital today, and we were moved, as you were all, about the tragic events at the start of this year, which the women that were killed. I'm not sure they are more numerous because the press talks more about this. And of course, our professor from the Curie Institute, this is not the first time you're coming, right, here, but this is a recurring cancer. And it's good to hear that there are some advances. We have faith. All of us, perhaps we can overcome one day in vanquishing this scourge. This is a major event for Burgundy as well. Beside these causes, I see people who represent the wine. This is about those. This is an opportunity not to be a barometer, a thermometer. This is a charity sale. Let's not forget it. And the Pièce du Président will be there, but the sale itself, a small quantity this year. Ludivine will talk about this better than I do. Usually when there's not much, it becomes rare. When it's rare, it could be expensive, and it shouldn't be too expensive, granted. But as a chairman of the supervisory board, if it's expensive, it's good. We are defending the hospital. It's about public health as well. We have a little concern, 95 million euros to find. You know, the Hôpital de France does not receive anything, subsidies from the government. This is why we succeeded in financing a new surgery ward, new imaging, etc. Jolivet Hospital, if you're familiar with Beaune, and we want to destroy the H hospital, and we will build something on it. So I'm saying this for our negociants, our merchants, and for our it's this cancer, but it's also having a close, a nearby hospital. It's very useful, you know. Charity starts with ourselves, you know. It's important to know that we can have a hospital nearby, and there's a quality of the vintage also. It's rare, but it's excellent, and people said Ludivine had good years. This year might be more difficult, but knowing Ludivine, you'll hear that she was able to work even harder and in a more refined way. And it's also a celebration as a mayor of Beaune. I rejoice. I seen what I saw yesterday. Many people in the streets, more perhaps than in 2019. We need that rebirth, this optimism. And this sale is also about this and the treatment of diseases and fighting against violence against women is something very positive. And the sale is also that special magic. Several years ago, with Antoine Jacquet, we tried to define it. It's a special magic without which. So I'm very happy that this year we have this auction where we are physically together again. And the wine auction is not something that you invent. It should be done here near the Hôtel Dieu with women, people in the streets. Everyone can buy. This is really the key thing. Sotheby's, I'm very happy that you are with us. It's new adventure. I don't want to I don't want to pressure them too much, but they're not entitled to make a mistake. So it's my role. So for the first time, I think it will be a great success. Have a very great day today. Hello, everyone. This is Ludivine Crimo. I was asked to take 3 minutes. It might be even less because I was so happy already meeting and answering many questions about this vintage, and it will mark us nearly in stone. The winemakers all at one point attempted to get the opinion, test the memory of older wine growers because none of them had experienced this. So all of us, we felt all brand new in the face of this vintage. However, despite the diversity and the difficulty, since this is the Women's Year, it reminds me of making a parallel with giving birth. It's difficult giving birth, very, very tough, but quite often it ends up quite well. The mother and the baby feel good. That's the image of this 2021 vintage. It's not because it was tough that the result is not good, is not where it should be. And as it was said before, we are very proud of offering 349 pièces and 5 feuillets. For this afternoon, we find whites, typically with Chardonnay. It's subtle, it's crisp, with Pinot Noir, fresh, elegant, with beautiful tannins, and the wine tasters in the past few days can confirm that the vintage in a few figures now. For us at the Hospices de Beaune, 11 treatments, which we started on the 28th of May. This is the traditional harvest day, the 17th of September. Over 140 tons of grapes that came in, 3 sorting tables that, in my opinion, at the Hospices de Beaune, it was one of the success key for producing beautiful whites and reds. These are also volumes and yields that were heard. The average yield is less than 14 hectoliters per hectare, now compared to 30 or 35, which is the normal average. It's also 23 people in the vines that we tend to forget. It's also 5 people with him in the wineries that we tend to forget. Let me wrap up here by thanking Michel, Adrien, Fabrice, Pascal, Bernard, Nicolas, Leslie, Guillaume, Francis, Denis, Romain, Frédéric, Mathieu, Yann, Valérie, Daniel, Samuel, Sylvain, Vincent, Romain, Arnaud, Sébastien, Stéphane, Flavien, Christopher. Hello, gentlemen. Thierry Hubert. I represent the wine growers. All these wine growers or winemakers, as Ludivine said, have given birth a beautiful vintage, but a small vintage. We know that it will grow up, and it will be beautiful, at the end of the day, a beautiful vintage. You were able to taste Louis de Vigne's wines. We've been tasting the wines that are in our cellars. Yes, we have a beautiful quality of grapes. It's a vintage that was challenging for our wine growers and really pushed us hard to find the technical inventiveness. But thanks to the September weather, helped us to tell you that we have a beautiful vintage with a future that is significant. We're coming back to more traditional vintages that we were able to produce about 20 or 25 years ago. So more classic and Burgundy-like. Aside this, I could talk to you about the developments of the Bourgogne vineyards, the wine, the goals, the objectives, the future. We are far from this. More than 60% of our estates are certified with an environmental value. So Burgundy is on the move, but also our commitment is more about what are we doing. Today we have a big problem with vineyards. Our roots are suffering. We must find solutions. We took with the whole channel, with the merchants, with the producers, huge technical commitments and financial commitments to attempt to ensure the future of the wine vineyards for our children. We are getting together with the eastern part of our region, develop new vines of Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, find the right grape varieties to better protect and continue to protect the people who are in our villages. All these things are very strong commitments, and there again, it's research that matters, but which in a way is part of public health. We must be able to continue to drink wine with moderation, granted, and that wine, we commit ourselves to make it healthier and healthier. So this is where we want to head as Burgundy. This is our path, and this is what should allow us to have a sustainable solidarity and conviviality with the Burgundy wines. Thank you. Fine, you heard the enthusiasm and the realism of Thibault and Ludivine about the quality of the vintage, and above all, our plank on research to make sure that in 30 or 100 years we still have wines from the Hospices de Beaune. I will speak about figures. I could sum it up in one sentence. Burgundy has never sold so many good wines, but produced so few wines. As you know, we are carrying an inquiry with the estates, with the producers, to estimate the value of harvest that is produced. And the estimate of harvest that you have this year is between 900 and 950 hectoliters. So this is a range. Usually we give you a specific figure. Why a range? Because we noticed a lot of unevenness in the vineyards. We follow the productions, Côte de Nuit, Chablis, etc., and the Macon of the north and of the south. What we notice generally, though, is the Côte d'Or wines, the Côte Chalonnaise, are particularly impacted. The reds usually do better and a bit better in the Côte de Nuit than in the Côte de Beaune. However, anyway, it's 50% of a normal harvest of 2018. And if we compare this compared to the average of the five last years, we used to produce 1.4. Now it's a lower 1.4. Ludivine spoke about the average yields of the Hospices de Beaune. If we look at the estimated volume and surface area, we are between 30 and 31 hectoliters per hectare. But as I said earlier, it's uneven. 30, it's good in the Côte de Nuit. 30 hectare in Chablis, it's half a normal crop. For those who know the figures of production in Burgundy, we need to go back to 1985 to find a crop below 1 million hectoliters. 1 million hectoliters. was 46 hectoliter per hectare. And for the old timers here, you have to go back to 1981, where we had an average crop 21 hectoliters per hectare, or 2.5 acres. Now, some positive figures now, which are about the upstream part. The upstream part was particularly dynamic, especially with the 2020 vintage, which was 1.56 hectoliters. Deals between were up by 12%. Releases from estates were up 11%. So in your kits, you have many figures about the export. I will not look at all of them. Let me comment a few of those statistics. First of all, remind you that France is the first client of Burgundy. We also tend to talk about export, 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 but the French client with retailers, with restaurant owners, etc., is the main market. The main retailers had the COVID effect where people stayed at home but bought wines in supermarkets. So 2020 was rather a strong year, which continued this year with a rise in volumes of 5% and 8% in value. All the AOC benefit from that. For the restaurant owners and specialist retailers, no official statistic. We're based on qualitative polling or surveys, but in restaurants we see that they are full. You have to really make reservations if you want to eat, and you see wine on each table. So restaurants are doing quite well. The second line is for Burgundy's export. In the export arena, by including every figure, it's up by nearly 22% in volume and 26% in value. We will be topping again the 1 billion euro in sales. We tend to complain in France when you have good figures. It's important to mention this over 1 billion of euro in exports. That's great. The United States benefited from the tax that was stopped. It was called the Trump tax. I'd rather to call it differently. It was temporarily suspended in April, so there was an effect of like operators really hurried to export. It was not easy because you had issues of availability of containers, of ships, etc. But April and May were very brisk, and finally, the Biden administration had a very good idea of postponing for a long time, hopefully, such a tax. So 2021 was very buoyant for dynamic, plus 14% in volume, plus 11% in value, and we also see that all the AOCs, all the colors benefited. And the Crémant records even a rise with more three digits because maybe the Champenois could not export to the U.S., so that gives some room for us. Korea was surprising with a rise with three digits. That's significant, believe me. Probably accounted for free trade agreements, no longer taxes, which means that wines are more affordable, and Koreans were able to consume more of our wines. Now, the questions we may ask ourselves, how can we interpret such good results? Well, to start with, we can see that the strong pickup in consumption, the effect of joy, we heard this word this morning very often, the joy, the thirst for consuming, being together, of sharing our good Burgundy bottles. So we want to live again and consume the way we saw it yesterday at the Clos Vougeot, which was fantastic. So, a series of very good vintages. We have good wines, good vintages to sell, 2016, 17, 18, 19, 2020, for every color. And I'd like to add, despite the small harvest, we have fewer wines, but every operator is on the move. We had to get organized. With Zoom testing, virtually by sending samplings to remain connected with our customers and continue to exchange with them. Now, the second question is, what about the future? What kind of actions for the various operators? Because to this day, as of today, Burgundy has 18 months of stocks in its cellars. Those stocks are shared for half merchants, for half estates. And with the 2021 that is scanned, we'll really have to drive this finally in the markets in the next 2 years. And as Thibault said, we are all waiting for the 2022 harvest, see what it will be about. So what is told operators is to remain connected, be on the ground, and refine their offer. Will be present. The operators will be present in the Burgundy Week in London next January, in Wine Paris in February, and on the other hand, what about the interprofession to support such operators? Maintain promotions on the ground. The Grand Jour de Bourgogne will find you again in March in our major Burgundy territory in the 20 in until the 25th of March, and also the reunions in Great Britain, in Canada, in the US, and in Japan. The interprofessional will take the professionals to those markets with tastings dedicated to the press and to the professionals. And as Thibault said as well, continue such investments into research. The BVBAC has increased its technical budget by nearly 600,000 euros, and it's not over. What we can say is that the Burgundy Wine Board becomes an investor and not a financer of the major projects for the future, to make sure that we are able to have wines for the coming century. It's up to us to take our fate into our hands, have projects that federate the whole, all of us, such as the Cité des Climats des Vins de Bourgogne, and François will talk about that one. Thank you very much. Yes, following the presentation by Thibault and Frederic, two types of topics I'd like to take up. Frederic has talked about communication related actions, but for the Burgundy Wine Board, it's the heart of our missions. Communication represents 50% of our budget. To start with, we are all very happy about the arrival in Dijon of the international organization of the what we call the Wine United Nations, Sotheby's. It is great for our territories, our region, from the Yonne region to the Saône-et-Loire. Communication beyond the Grand Jour, well, we want to organize it. The reunion with Burgundy in Canada, of course, in the UK, in the United States, and in Japan. 2 years of nearly total stoppage due to the lockdown. Those who speak about the Bourgogne wine have to be with us again physically. In France, we are recreating Le Grand Bourgogne in Paris in January, and with the other, the Vinexpo in Paris, and hopefully they become a major success, even though today our Asian friends can travel, but going back is tough for them. It's important to be in contact directly with our clients. And within our territories, Burgundy, the Projet des Cités is moving forward. First of all, in the city of Dijon, will be present to let visitors understand, to make sure that they understand the Bourgogne wines. As from the spring of 2022, the work is underway to implement our École des Vins, which is also situated at the entrance of the Cité des Vins, for the project which is dear to our heart, that is the network of the Cité des Vins de Bourgogne. You will see at the entrance of Beaune, there's the equipment that is put in place with the mayor in Chablis and Mâcon. It's the wine board that is organizing this. Beside this, we are working also on scenography, on whether it involves the building of the scenography or the production of content. The message will be structured in the same way in the three sites. In other words, how to explain the terroir wine. And every terroir is not a climate. And so we want to make sure that everything is different here. There's such diversity. As a financier, we finance this through the BIVB, but through patronage also, in which were involved many estates, more than 1.5 million euros in philanthropy. Our partners are numerous, plentiful. I cannot mention them all. American friends also are contributing a lot to the project. I'm mentioning them because, as you notice, the opening of borders, well, they rushed to come here last night at the Chapitre des Trois Glorieuses, as we call this. They were there, and there were many. Of course, we now we are waiting for our Asian friends to join us. Some will be brave enough, and 3 months in, they will have to be locked down, when they go back home to Hong Kong or to Japan. So the first part of the campaign, which was silent, enabled to hit half of the goal that we had set ourselves. The Association de la Cité and its committee will start in 2020 of setting the goal. The following goal, we want to show that we are really totally committed to our project. And the future manager, which is Association des Cités et des Climats de Vin, is expanding to be fully operational when all these sites will be open to our visitors, in the spring of 2022. In 1 year's time, right, Alain? In Beaune, here we will have the official opening of La Cité de Beaune. This project, which is dear to our heart, is taking shape now, and we are really eager to be there. Thank you very much.